What's up, my people? My name is Ogena Runamara Isibunaisike, and I'm your host of TechTron Podcast. In this podcast, we talk about trending news, trending stories, bring tech pros here, talk to them about their experiences. And today, we are excited to have Mike Tedesco. But before we bring Mike in, let's talk about some trending stories that have been trending for a couple of days. So the first story is about some candidates that unfortunately took some interview in North Ireland, interviews on civil service jobs, interviews, and they had serious technical issues. It was so unfortunate. Some of them couldn't submit their videos, some of them, their mics were muted. They couldn't hear anything. There was no sound on the video. So I pray that issues dealt with. And again, we'll go straight down to US. Incoming President Trump, Donald Trump. You know, in 2020, there was a vow to shut down TikTok because of security concerns. Donald Trump wanted to shut down TikTok. But now, a couple of days ago, Donald Trump, her TikTok was shut down and it stayed for about 2 days and it was launched back, I think yesterday, on the 19th. It was launched back. And presently now it still shows unavailable on the app. So I just pray for TikTokers in the US. I pray it's not shut down because for some reason a lot of TikTokers make money out of TikTok. I mean, that's their job. They do that for a living. They try to create something for themselves, so I don't know why they want to bring it down. And again, US President's wife, Melania Trump, has launched her cryptocurrency. Okay. So you could find these trending stories. You could, go to your browser, check for the stories, and you read them. Now, over to Mike Tedesco. Mike, thank you very much for coming on the TechTron podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So we'll dive in straight to our topic of today. Our topic of today is the act of staying current in technology. First of all, Mike, thank you for coming. Our first question is, what has your experience been in technology? What have you experienced? What's technology for you? What have you done? And what's experience been like in technology?
And first, thanks for having me. And hopefully this could help people. So the question is getting about tech. So you want to enter tech, you want to enter the world of tech. It seems big, it seems daunting, whatever. How do I actually do that? Let me start with my story real quick, and then I think it'll be beneficial for folks. I'm not a tech person by nature. I was not an engineer. I got a degree in finance and accounting, and that's where my first jobs were. And that's how I started my career. I was literally doing like debits and credits, accounting stuff at GE, a very old world, old line company. And I did that for some time. I actually then moved to a paper company, which is literally even like, this is straight from The Office. Like, this is older world. I did that for some time, but I was always interested in technology. I was always interested in that. So even though that wasn't my background, I've read tech magazines at the time and all that kind of stuff about it. So I was always interested in the space. So I went back to school, and after I got a degree, I was like, I'm going to start my own website. I had no idea what I was doing. It was a complete failure in many aspects after doing it for 2 years. And that, frankly, was my foray into getting a job at PayPal. Was that, I never did anything in tech, but at least I did something on my own. I had a lot of stories. People in technology love stories of failure, to be very honest, especially when you've learned something on the other side of it. And when you could show that, hey, I didn't know how to do this. I tried that. I failed at that. So I tried something else. Those are the kind of stories that resonate. That's how it got me a job at PayPal 14 years ago now. And, honestly, I've been in the world of technology ever since. And even if you're not an engineer or not a technologist, it's okay, because like you could keep going down that path and just so that's what worked for me. And again, happy to dive deeper, but at least wanted to start with that story just to show like, again, I'm not an engineer. I'm not a tech guy myself, even though I represent one on wonderful podcasts like this.
Thank you, Mike. Do you have any mentor? Do you have anybody that mentor you to this point where you are? Do you have any, like a senior friend that mentored you?
Honestly, I did not have any mentors. Mentors are great. I try and be a mentor to others. I really did not. It's so funny you talk about SQL. So a great example. So my first job in tech was actually doing data science, basically for PayPal in 2011. It wasn't called data science at the time, but that's effectively what the job was. And they never asked if I knew SQL. And I got in there day one and I was supposed to do this stuff. I'm like, what the heck is this? And they're like, what, you don't know this? So it's one of those things. I was like, no. And so like, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos at the time. I got up to speed really quickly. And look, honestly, there wasn't that much of a concern. Is the most important trait you can show to people in technology is that you have the ability to learn. They're never going to dock you for not knowing SQL, not knowing JavaScript, not knowing, what our industry's biggest competitors are, our company's biggest. They're not going to dock you for any of that stuff. But they will look and see, like, were you able to learn these things, or how did you do with that? So yeah, I kind of snuck my way into a job without knowing that, but I had to learn a little bit on the time. But frankly, even more so than that, I was kind of the weird person on the data analytics team who was sort of doing stuff outside of SQL, like talking to customers, which was kind of a novel thing on our team. Like I would literally go out and drive my car and talk to people and gather data and information that way. And that's how I was able to provide value.
Oh, thank you very much, Mike. A couple of young people love to go into tech, but they find it so difficult and they're laid back when they think about learning SQL, so think about learning Python or into data visualization, wrapper, and all the stuff. They're just laid back. They feel it's difficult. So what's your advice for them? What do you think they could do to make it, interesting to be in? What do you think?
So advice for people in tech is first, just understand the ecosystem, understand the space. So what I would say, if you have, say you really want to work at Google, I'm just going to throw it out there. Okay, that's my dream job, getting a job at Google, and I want to be on the search team or whatever it might be. Go deep into that. There are whole blogs, whole Twitter accounts, whole whatever about search. And how do you, what's going on in the search landscape, and read that every day. Post about it yourself. One of the greatest hacks. So truly most tech companies, when I was at PayPal, I don't know if I ever looked at somebody's resume when I was hiring. I hired a lot of people. I think some people did, HR people probably looked at resumes, but truly I didn't. What I would do when I was hiring somebody is I would actually go to their LinkedIn page, see if we knew anybody in common. I would kind of see what they did on there. And one of the things I would do, and very, very few people did this, I would actually see if they wrote about everything. And so if Google's your dream job, you want to get into that space, what I would say is, it's going to take a little bit of time, but take a couple months, just learn everything you can about search, everything you possibly can about the markets, who are the smart voices saying the best things, inside and outside of Google about that. What are the competing technologies that are out there, Perplexity and all these other ones, how are they doing things differently? Get really knowledgeable about that. And then what I would actually start doing is I would actually start writing about it. I would get on LinkedIn and take the time to write some articles. So, and again, you don't have to be a deep expert in there. Anybody can post on it, but start putting some stuff out there in the world and have unique thoughts, unique takes. Be humble though, be open. You might not get these rights. They might not be perfect. Writing is hard. Writing takes a lot of time. And you have to constantly iterate on that. But that's the kind of stuff I would do. So like if I was a hiring manager, then again, one of the first things I'm doing is going to a person's LinkedIn page and I see, oh, they've been writing about search for 6 months. That's going to be a way to give you credibility and separate you from a lot of other people. So maybe, and again, that's very one targeted thing. You could even, if more broad, you're like, hey, Mike, I just want to get into tech. Right from the perspective of a person who is, let's just say you're working at a bakery today and you want to work in technology tomorrow, like that could be your blog and your vision. Talk about ways that you are introducing tech into the bakery in your journey or something like that. Like whatever it might be, whatever your unique story is, put that out there. Spend some time, make it good, like iterate in like long form writing. But I do think that's one way to really start to sell yourself.
Thank you so much, Mike. So, what's your thoughts about how artificial intelligence is shaping the world? Tools like ChatGPT, I mean, you could just prompt ChatGPT and it comes up. Do you feel these tools are damaging our brains?
Yeah. Look, it's completely changing how we work and how we operate, and definitely how we search for jobs and things like that. Like if I was hiring people right now, I would expect that the people that are applying for jobs are using ChatGPT. And I think I'd almost be disappointed if they weren't using these tools, because these tools should make you more effective. They should make you a better writer. They should help you, like, more efficiently work through the landscape and so forth. Like that would be my expectation of people using this. So it is going to change just how the internet changed our world. Like think about anybody out there. Think about what your job is today, or what if you don't have a job, what your last job was. And then go back 25 years. What would that exact same job have looked like? Would it even have existed 25 years ago? Would it be completely different? What's the change that you've seen in the world? That is what we're going to see with artificial intelligence in the next 5-10 years. It is going to completely change how we work and how we operate. We're just beginning to understand what these models are even capable of. There's going to be a separation. And the people who know and understand how to use these things are the ones who are going to have a much better, much easier time getting jobs, getting employed, being a productive, effective employee at a tech company than those who are not as familiar with the tools. And the great thing about the tools is you don't need to know how to code to use them. You just type in English or whatever your native language is. Like that's how you use these tools.
Definitely. So is artificial intelligence taking over the world in terms of, just prompting a tool and it gives you answers, and you don't even check the answers, you just use them that way? Do you think artificial intelligence is taking over the world?
I think the short answer is we don't know for sure. But the long answer is I think it's very likely that it will. It will change how we look. It will change what we think is intelligence even. And so let's look at historical comparisons to this. If you go far enough back, who was the smartest person people would know, 500 years ago or something like that? Well, it would be somebody who was able to read and somebody who was able to memorize. Memorization was the key unlock for intelligence back then. Somebody who was able to quote from the Bible directly, or somebody who was able to do what? Now, why was that? Well, knowledge was scarce 500 years ago. There are only so many books floating around, and there are only so many people who knew how to read. And so it wasn't easily accessible. It wasn't on our person with all the information in the world at all times. Like that was how we thought of intelligence. Go forward a couple hundred years to much more recently, I think it's largely been proven that people are becoming much worse with things like directions and knowing how to find things. Why is that? Well, we don't use that part of our brain as much when we have Google Maps. When we just type in a location and be like, I can walk there, I can drive there, I can do whatever. You don't have to use that part of your brain as much. So that part is probably going to not be as strong today as it was for somebody who had to work with maps, or even in the time before we had maps or whatever it would be. So what is intelligence is constantly evolving. So let's take then your question about ChatGPT. How is that going to play out? how is that going to like make us think about like what is intelligence and what is smart, and for people, and the best way to use this. And yeah, I think it can be a problem. Ideally, the thing that is going to matter more going forward, more than actually being able to write code or write a novel or write a song or whatever, is going to be taste. And whatever that actually means, I don't exactly know. But, if ChatGPT can churn out, 20 things in 20 seconds, the more important thing for you is like, okay, well, your job is curating and saying, well, which one of these 20 is the one that actually matters? Which one of these is the thing that is going to, I want to put my name on, or I want to edit and I want to adjust and so forth. It comes down to taste. So things like that will matter. Just like also, I don't know where to put commas. Like when I'm writing, I have no idea where I'm supposed to put commas, where I'm not supposed to put commas, all that. That part of my brain, I don't know. I could learn that, but also I know in my writing, that's probably not the best use of my time, because I have something like Grammarly that can help me out. And Grammarly will tell me where the commas are, or Microsoft Word or Google Docs or whatever it is you're using, and it will help you with that. And so like we all have to make a strategic decision on that. And, I think if you are just letting ChatGPT run and you just say, well, the first thing it gives me is the best one and whatever, blah, and I'm just doing that, like your work is not going to be as high quality as somebody who's using those tools in a much more critical way. And I think that is going to be the important skill. It's having taste and having real critical thinking, and knowing that these models aren't always going to be right. And that more often than not, like today, a human does a much better job than the models. A human with skill will do a much better job with models and writing and all these sorts of things. It just takes time. It's just not as fast. And sometimes a little more painful to do it as a human than it is to have a button, sit back and watch TikTok videos while the machine does the work for you.
Okay, that's it for today, Mike. Thank you so much for responding to a call. We are so happy. We are really, really excited to have you here today.
No, thanks for having me. This was fun. And look, I hope this helps people out in their tech journey. Like, look, get jobs in tech. They're great jobs. They're great paying. And if there's any way I can help and support you all, like reach out to me on socials. I'll do what I can.
Thank you so much, Mike. And guys, thank you so much. Expect another episode from us very soon. Thank you. And that is it for today for TechTron. Cheers.